Hey there, I am very bored today, so I thought I'd tell you guys a story. Okay, this is the story of the Trids. So, once upon a time, there was this extremely zealous and religious rabbi. He wanted everybody to convert to Judaism, which is honestly kind of uncommon. You know, most of the time, Jews usually keep to themselves, but not this one. So, eventually, one day, he decided to go to Africa to spread his religion. Booked a flight, and he went to Ethiopia. So, he spent his time there trying to convert people to Judaism, blah blah blah, talking to people, annoying the locals, all that stuff. One day, he decided to go on a bit of an adventure. He's going to try and find a mysterious tribe known as the Trids. Now, so far, for all he knew, they were but a myth. The myth went on as these Trids were cursed to stay at the bottom of an enormous hill, and if they ever left, they would suffer from the giant. He thought that this was all just, frankly, bullcrap. He didn't think it was real. He thought it was all fantasy. But why not try and find them? It'll make a good story anyway. So he went and he rented a jeep. And he went out to find the Trids. So eventually he found this big cave that he was looking for. The cave that the Trids were rumored to be behind. So he got out of his jeep and he entered the dark, dank cave. Now, he started walking very, very slowly through the cave, because it was all wet and mossy, and he knew he would slip and fall and break something. And when he went through this cave, there was very little light, and there were all these bugs and bats on the ceiling, and it was going very quietly. Eventually, he made it to the other side, and on the other side, there was this grand waterfall that made a beautiful rainbow. And through that waterfall, you could see just the little markings, the little edges of a cave. So, his adventurous side kicked in. He walked across the rocks on the water, and he poked his head inside the cave. And what he heard was a very low, very ominous growl. Ugh. He immediately ran back across the rocks onto the path, never to enter the cave again. As he was walked, so after that, he started walking down the path, and he noticed all this green, lush jungle encompassing him that was honestly not noticeable from where the cave was. He must have gone really far. So, there were these flowers all over the place. There were birds chirping, animals running through the bush. It was honestly a sight to see. So, continued down the surprisingly beaten path. He kept on walking, and walking. Eventually, night reached. So he went, set up his camp, and he ate what he had brought with him. He thought that it would only be a couple hours more in the morning. Boy, was he wrong. It took him 5 more days. He had to eventually resort to scavenging berries and killing the local animals and cooking them. Eventually, he did make it to the village. In this village there was the group known as the Trids. They were all in the village, looking for berries and talking to each other and all the stuff that you would expect. He walked in, and he said, "Where is the village leader?" Obviously none of them knew English, but the rabbi did know some Swahili, since he had been to Africa multiple times before, and he was basically fluent in it. So he said, "Where is your leader?" in Swahili this time. And the Trids all pointed to the biggest, grandest hut of all of them. So he walked in, and he said to the leader, "Are you the Trids?" The leader said, "Yes, that is what we are known as." The rabbi said, "I have come here to spread my religion." The leader said, "We don't want your religion, but you could help us with the problem we have. But, we don't really know if we trust you yet. Why don't you stay here? We'll work you, and feed you, and clothe you, and bathe you, for the next week, and then we'll trust you." The rabbi says, "Of course," planning that after he solves whatever problem they have, he thinks that, of course, he can convert them to Judaism. So he goes and he works for the week. He eats their food, which is honestly pretty good. He takes baths, does all the stuff, basically learns to blend in. At the end of the week, the tribe leader comes up to him and says, "You have finally earned our trust. Now you can help us with our problem." The rabbi says, "Of course, what is your problem?" The rabbi says, "There is a giant at the top of this great hill that leads to our village. We need you to help defeat him." What? A giant? That's frickin' stupid. I know, right? The rabbi is just thinking, what a joke. It's probably just what happened was some men went up there, they got spooked by a boar, and then they ran back and told a giant in order to frighten the village and make it seem as though they were so courageous. So the rabbi says, "Of course, I'll help you with your giant." The leader says, "Good, we'll go tomorrow." So the rabbi goes, gets a good night's sleep, and he packs all his stuff and gets ready to leave. 5 men accompany him along with the tribal leader. They all have spears. They must really think there's a giant up here. The rabbi says, "Okay, I'm ready to go." And they climb up the hill. The Trids know a better path, which let them go faster. It only took them 3 days this time. Eventually, they get to the top of the hill, and all of a sudden, this huge giant walks out of the cave. He's 15 feet tall. He has gnarled teeth and fingernails, gigantic muscly arms, and a deep, bellowing, booming voice. "Trids, why have you come up here? You know you shall not get through my cave." So he goes, he leans back, and he gives the Trids a great big kick, and pushes them all the way back to their village, with one single swoop. But he leaves the rabbi alone, and he just walks back into his cave. The rabbi was both terrified, but also kind of found it curious, the situation. So he decides to enter the cave. Of course, he was shaking in his boots, but he still enters. And inside, it's well lighted, dry. Honestly, it seems kind of comfortable. And there is the giant sipping tea. Giant says, "Here, come up here with me. We shall have a nice cup of tea." The rabbi does so, climbs to the top of the enormous chair, and is able to stand in order to get to the table, and he drinks his tea. The troll says to him, "What do you do for a living?" The rabbi says, "Well, I'm a rabbi. I teach Judaism." "Hey," said the rabbi, "why did you kick those Trids down, but not me?" The giant laughed. Silly rabbi. Kicks are for Trids. Hey there, I am very bored today, so I thought I'd tell you guys a story. Okay, this is the story of the Trids. So, once upon a time, there was this extremely zealous and religious rabbi. He wanted everybody to convert to Judaism, which is honestly kind of uncommon.